alright, you got me. You guys are gonna make me soft. I felt bad about how last year ended, so I'm caving in. We're finally covering The Simpsons, and I know it's not hit and run and I didn't paint myself yellow, but you've got to understand, we can't just start at the top, we've got to work our way up there. But with all of the other games based on this franchise already covered to complete nauseam, I've decided to do what I do best and delve into the obscure side of things to uncover some Simpsons mobile games. This juggernaut franchise is possibly the biggest mainstream phenomenon the world has ever seen, next to the likes of Star Wars, professional wrestling and video games of course, with Simpsons properties dipping a toe into all of the latter along with the rest I failed to mention. As a kid, I'd plop myself in front of the TV every afternoon and watch Fox's animation marathon of Simpsons, Futurama and Family Guy among others, but the yellow family completely ruled all. I've still got my old DVDs and a huge pile of Simpsons comic books, and of course my own electronic video games. But as strong as this brand was, it never seemed to reach the mobile phone gaming market until The Simpsons Movie premiered, which both launched The Simpsons into even more mainstream publicity and saw the beginning of its inevitable downfall, at least in my opinion. The Simpsons will always be the king of Western animated shows, but when that movie came out, man, I stopped watching not long after, and the movie itself was a big letdown for me. So when I found out that all of the mobile games were based in an era past the show's prime, I gotta admit, it killed my expectations. But enough introduction, up first is Minutes to Meltdown. Released in 2007 in conjunction with the movie, we're greeted with Homer and that fucking pig watching TV. The news tells us that the pig has sent the city into chaos and the power plant is in danger of a meltdown. Now the whole town want Homer dead as a result, and it's up to him to save Springfield before time runs out. What more would you expect? When we get into the game, you'll notice that the graphics are very nice and the animation is decent. We're running around the house with full range, getting some isometric exercise at triple speed, making it kind of hard to navigate this place. We go to the car but there are no keys, so now we have to find Maggie, who'll only hand them over in exchange for her dummy. Stupid Australians call pacifiers dummies, just so you know. Australian fun fact! But then the pig steals it, and this is pretty much all you do. You're given a simple objective that requires a bunch of smaller objectives to be completed in the process. Meanwhile, police are chasing you everywhere, but if you're quick enough, you can block their path, which is pretty neat. Level 2 sees us in Springfield, running through town, avoiding cars, and jumping over pits. You can even ride Bart's skateboard. God, don't even get me started. The third and final level is the power plant, and it's a shame that the game is so short because it's not complete trash. This final level is like a maze, avoiding plant workers who charge into you, switching doors open, and even fighting clones to reach the end goal. Because all of this fetching and questing is dialed up to this speed, it does make the entire experience feel convoluted and insane, but I have to give credit where it's due. It is faithful to what you'd expect from an episode of the TV show. It includes quite a large cast for such a short experience, and there are even the odd Easter eggs to find. I think it's a solid effort for the first game on a platform, but for 2007, it begs for something with more polish and purpose. That's what the following mobile title does, The Simpsons Itchy and Scratchy Land, based on one of my personal favourite episodes, Itchy and Scratchy Land. After I first saw this episode when I was younger, I ran right to my computer and booted up Roller Coaster Tycoon so that I could build a log flume ride with a heap of death traps at the bottom. Fair to say, The Simpsons fucked me up in the head. The story is much the same as the episode. All the robots in the park go crazy and the Simpsons have to fight their way out. So, based on the final 2 minutes of the episode, we get this game. We start off by travelling to the first of the 4 areas, Explosion Land, Unnecessary Surgery Land, Torture Land, and finally, Searing Gas Pain Land. See, now we're playing a Simpsons game. Each of the 4 worlds have several sections to each, so this game actually ends up being quite long compared to some of the other mobile games we've looked at in the past, and especially playing it right after Minutes to Meltdown. Once again, the visuals are spot on and the game's speed has been greatly reduced, making this a lot more playable, and the level format reminds me of Annihilation Nation from Ratchet 3, as they're just gauntlets of running around, avoiding obstacles, doing these bounce puzzles where you've got to find the correct path through the bombs, and completing defense sections with each family member. One thing with most of these old Java games is that you only get music at the main menu and normally silence throughout most of the game, but here we even get some music while we're playing. I'm stunned. Of all the Simpsons games I've played over the years and fucking hated, why is a mobile title putting them to shame? This is fucking great, dude. I mean, the final level is pretty anticlimactic and it's repetitive as all hell, but I still enjoyed this. It follows the episode to perfection, so much so that it's like I'm playing through the TV show, and that's awesome. I think this proves that if we saw more games simply based on episodes of the show recreated faithfully, rather than all the bland original ideas and cheap copycats, that the lineup of Simpsons games would be much stronger looking back these days. Let's just hope this is a common theme today. Up next is The Simpsons Arcade, on mobile. It was released on both iOS and Java, the latter of which we'll be trying today. Now don't get confused, this is not a simple port of the beloved classic arcade machine from '91. No, this game is merely using that same name as a ploy to sell you a much shittier modern version of that. Think of it as a remaster from the ground up. Rather than having Waylon Smithers rob a fucking jewellery store, all of Springfield's finest, led by Mr. Burns, have developed some secret strategy for world domination and place it onto a thumb drive which is then hidden inside a donut. Well, now I'm asking, why did they have to change anything? I actually prefer the idea of Sweetheart Smithers robbing a fucking jewellery store over this cheap, low-effort shit. The game even says, you probably skip this anyway because who cares, am I right? Video games are stupid. All that does is discredit the original. Why is it necessary? But this is based loosely on the arcade, even if the story is slightly different. The characters and a few of the levels are much the same, and even some of the attacks and animations are familiar. But tell me, why can't we play as the entire family? Not that I expect 4 people to huddle around a phone and play together for shit's sake, but why only one character? All this restriction does is immediately make this title much crappier than the original, making it feel a lot worse than it actually is. At least those characters can be summoned as a special attack, but it really doesn't compare. And with that, as you'd expect, the controls and moves are much more limited compared to the original version, so I honestly can't understand why this even needed to exist. Because EA loves money, that's why. Electronic Arts published all of the Simpsons games on mobile and even developed a few of them. So it's no wonder this game came to light. It was nothing more than a cheap cash-in on nostalgia. But listen, the game itself is fine. There is nothing totally broken or even shitty about it. Each level introduces a new enemy type and some parts of the game actually offer a strong challenge. Unfortunately, there just isn't much to say. It's a cheap, low-quality beat-em-up based on one of the defining beat-em-up titles in video game history, only released for a quick buck. What a shame. But don't fret, if you're as sick to death of hearing about EA and their shady BS as I am, then I've got an Android game you might enjoy. The Simpsons Find It. This is actually a fan-made app without any licensing whatsoever, but it is a Simpsons mobile game, so fuck it. That's what they should have called it, Simpsons Fuck It. All it is a spot the difference game. Try to find our shitty Photoshop jobs. You won't believe how bad it is. If I wanted to sit and stare at shit Photoshop jobs, I'd just look on YouTube. Wow, there are some bad ones. Honestly, I've got nothing to say about this. The least they could have done was added some stock music, but we just sit here in silence.
Hurry up!
Well, except for that, What is that voice? Whoever made this game wants us to get it over with so they can abandon this piece of shit and get on with their lives. And I don't blame them, the precision is broken. Even playing this on a computer via an emulator, I still can't make my mark on some of these. The hitboxes require such a dead-on shot, yet I can find something completely different than what I was trying to select. Why am I still talking about this? Okay, it's time for our feature presentation. The main Simpsons mobile game that just reeks of EA. The Simpsons Tapped Out. Oh God. You should have just done hit and run, Jack. Oh. Released on iOS and Android in 2013, you're lucky if the bitch will even boot up without deleting everything else off of your device. Once you get in, we see Homer playing a town building game, complaining that it takes too long for anything to happen. So then he goes and spends $1,000 on boosters to speed through, again leaning on the whole "wow, aren't video games fucking stupid" argument. In the background, the power plant melts down and explodes all of Springfield into nice, perfect little pieces ready for purchasing. 30 seconds in, and we've already seen 2 repeated plot points from previous games. Now for starters, this is going to be painful because I'm playing this right after Christmas, and despite it being the end of January, these bums still have their Christmas shit turned on. So, what do? Follow this painfully long, drawn-out, patronising shit tutorial, and then grind for the rest of time to rebuild Springfield. Think of it as like a SimCity kind of game, if for every building you put down, you had to sit and wait 6 hours for it to be built. Not game hours, real hours. As you go along and complete various objectives, you unlock more characters and more buildings to place down. And then with each building you gain money and experience points over time, which also come from giving characters chores to do. For example, I can make Homer watch TV for 24 hours, so we select that and now we wait. So what happens is you find yourself turning the game on for 5 minutes, clicking a heap of stuff and giving all your characters new tasks to do until you next return to the game. But see, the problem here is that if you don't want to wait, then you can spend donuts to complete these tasks almost instantly. How do you get donuts? Well, there are 2 ways. Earning them with daily challenges and by completing objectives, or just buying them with real money. Play to lose, pay to win. Of course EA stuck their nose in this. It's such a fucking scam. How does anyone put money into these? I played this for a week and didn't spend a cracker, and quite honestly, I might actually keep playing it because I've always loved city building games and seeing them progress. Not to mention, I kind of like the idea of a game progressing while you're away. But I still can't get over just how scummy this business model is. Here is a game with practically zero gameplay and a few references to this once untouchable franchise that begs for your money, begs for your habit of waking up each morning and living on your devices, to then just harass you until you eventually give in. What a fucking shame. What a shame that this completes the lineup of Simpsons mobile games. That's it. That is all the Simpsons related mobile games I could find. An okay game, a better game, 2 cheap cash whores, and a fan-made effort. I don't know what's worse, that lineup or the fact that Futurama had more mobile games than it had actual console ones. So before we finish up today, I've got some housekeeping to do. Back in Season 2, I took a look at Futurama, the only fucking game, and a lot of people got mad. Apparently this is some rare, expensive game or something. Yeah, the rare games normally are fucking garbage, so you got me there. But one thing I noted at the time was that Futurama also had a mobile title, so as a little bonus, let's check it out. Futurama Game of Drones. If you've played Candy Crush or anything similar, then you've played Game of Drones. Of all these match-up games I've tried, this is easily one of the most boring. The presentation is nice, the map screen sees the ship fly through 3D environments, and the basic cutscenes are fine. The humour from the show is here, meaning they pretty much rip off their own material at this point, but it's just another one of these games. It is a lot easier starting off, but that just makes it more boring for me. Even the flashy critical hits and special items aren't even as flashy as what you'll find in anything from King, so it just feels dirty. Another cheap cash-in on an established business model that's not as bad as Tapped Out. Though what's up next is much, much worse. Futurama Worlds of Tomorrow. I can't believe it's come to this. Futurama, a brand arguably more fit for as many pointless spin-offs and adaptations as its older brother saw, reduced to nothing more than a few movies that are ironically superior to the Simpsons movie, but only 3 mediocre games, including one that preys on disposable income. Let's take a look. The story here is a little more thought out, which is nice. The professor sends the crew on a delivery for no reason. God, they really do love this video games make no sense shit, don't they? But I must say, this one got a chuckle out of me because it's just so stupid. When they arrive, the Hypnotoad is revealed as cargo, and a female Hypnotoad spawns in from another dimension, causing the universe to be ripped apart. That's all well and dandy until, God fucking damn, these games are just storytelling. So once you delete your tapped out save file and finally have enough room, you realise that the gameplay here is identical to the Simpsons version, only this time shit takes even longer. I will say that the presentation this time feels a lot more like a game because there is more substance here. Characters themselves can unlock special outfits and can even be upgraded to unlock more actions, for earning XP and money to spend. You can even jump in the ship with a crew of your choosing and go on space missions. Here, you get into simple turn-based battles with various enemies, as well as some dialogue trees that earn you more rewards for answering correctly. There is a lot of text to read though, and I normally just tap through, so when the game called me out on it, I've got to admit, that is how you break the fourth wall with a game like this, without insulting my intelligence. Nicely done. But in general, this is what a Futurama game should be. Flying around space, visiting different planets, getting into battles and performing tasks for people alongside all the faces you recognise from the show. But instead, it's just a mini game for the real game here. Ticking items off of a list and wasting hours for no end goal. Instead of donuts, this time we have pizza, and no kidding, this game is very stingy. No daily challenges or free handouts here, only watching ads for other cancer apps, and even earning boosters by playing other apps. My god, it's a pyramid scheme of exploitation with EA at the top, the drizzling shits they call video games in the middle, and all the players getting showered underneath. But nobody wants to wait 12 hours to make progress, so you gotta buy some pizza, right? Well, just look how much this shit costs! Not to mention, if your task is almost complete in The Simpsons, the game lets you complete it for free to help speed things up. But then Futurama is just like, oh, you want to save 30 seconds? Well, fuck you. Buy our shit. I refuse to use what little resources I have because it's not even worth it. And all because they want more people to put down serious money for this shit. While I actually had more fun playing this than I did Tapped Out, the city building portion of the experience is severely worse due to the time it takes to make progress, the limited space for building, and the ridiculous amount of things you have to collect and spend real money on, restricting the otherwise tolerable concept. And do you know what I learned after playing these games? Even Family Guy has its own version of this business model now. Like, what the fuck? How? Family Guy isn't exactly known for its unique locations and landmarks that aren't ripped off from some other property, so why did it need a game like this? I'd say who knows, but that'd be incorrect. We all know why. Maybe we'll get to that someday along with the rest of the Family Guy games, but until then, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share. I'm Square-Eyed Jack, and I hope you have a great fucking day. Thanks for watching.